Were you a fan of TV dinners?
Oh my God. And when I was a kid, anything you could eat out of aluminum was a big fucking deal. And I got hot when at whatever point they switched from the aluminum trays, it looked like you were actually, being at least served a meal in prison or something, to the goddamn this pansy ass fucking plastic they got now. If you try to put it under the broiler, you get a little singe on the top of your frozen goodies. It'll melt and fucking give you cancerous tumors.
Well, either way, they now say that anything we have with plastic water bottles, anything that food is served in, all of it, there are tiny little particles of plastic that are entering our bodies, and that we have more plastic in us right now than obviously ever before, and we don't know really how that affects the brain and everything else.
Is that why that I've been able recently to extend my arms at least a foot longer than they normally used to be?
I didn't mean it would give you the qualities of the classic Plastic Man or anything.
But here's another question for you.
One of the least heralded superheroes, Plastic Man.
Well, yes, but why did they call him Plastic Man? Because he could stretch and bend into all kinds of shapes when you can't do that with plastic. You'll break that shit in a fucking second.
What should his name have been?
Rubber Man. Did they think the kids would confuse him with a condom? See, but it doesn't add up. That's why he was unheralded.
I guess so.
Because even the kids said, well, fuck all the shit we got's plastic. It breaks in a fucking heartbeat. Why is this guy so fucking stretchy?
Like even on like Super Friends as a kid, when you'd see him like teaming up with like Superman to solve a crime or to do something, you're like, man, that's a weird partner for Superman to have. Plastic Man just doing his own thing.
He could go where he wants to go and do what he wants to do because he's Plastic Man. He can assimilate any shape, or I bet he's been in some interesting places.
But you like the TV dinners in the aluminum.
Oh, that's what we were talking about. Yeah, in the aluminium, I enjoyed the television dinners. It gave an air of fucking class to the proceedings when your tray was all shiny.
Was Mama Cornette cool with you eating while, like in front of the TV, not at the table or anything?
Well, no, the TV dinner was, not an everyday thing. It was, that's another thing when you're a kid, it's a special occasion thing where like, early on when I was very little and my mom and dad would go to dinner, I'd get one with the babysitter or whatever. Or then later when we were coming back from fucking wrestling shows late at night and I popped this in the oven. That type of thing. Well, I wasn't a kid then, but I still liked them. But it was every once in a while.
Were your eating habits what they were before you were a manager, but you were already like, you were already in the business. You were a photographer going to multiple shows and doing multiple things at these shows. Were your eating habits the same, or once you were on the road, did they change?
No, just the volume. But the things I've always been a cheeseburger for the only fast food restaurant, if you call it that, when I was a kid in our little suburban neighborhood was Jerry's restaurant. It was Jerry's Drive-In. And you actually drove up and they hung the speaker on the deal and you ordered and they brought it to you and they hung it on the tray on the side or whatever. It never broke the window out like it did in Happy Days. I don't know what they were doing. And you could eat in the car. Well, that was just swell. Right? I'm 5 years. So that was the thing. I was a Jerry's J-Boy fanatic, which was the Frisch's big boy of this apparently fucking rival, potentially a plagiarist chain of Jerry's J-Boys around town. But so I always liked the cheeseburgers. I just had access to them on a daily basis when I started traveling and fucking passing by goddamn burger joints. Why are you always so fascinated with my goddamn eating habits?
And now J-Boys is an annual New Japan tournament. No, I was just curious. I was thinking about it just in terms of talking about the TV dinners and everything. Again, you were kind of on the road already, although it was not necessarily as strenuous a schedule. I was just wondering, in terms of what you would actually eat when you got home, if that changed.
Well, and also when we started going to Evansville, Indiana every Wednesday night, I was summer of '79, and my mom took over selling the merchandise such as it was at Evansville. They only needed one person, but I was not only taking pictures there, but that's where I would probably get the guys because they were bored out of their fucking minds in a locker room in Evansville to do interviews on cassette tape on a fucking tape recorder to give to Teeny for the spot shows. They'd send them to the radio station. They played in Russell Springs, Kentucky. They would play an audio cassette recorded on a tape recorder by a fucking 17-year-old kid talking to a fucking wrestler for 60 seconds. If it benefited the fucking JCs or the Booster Club. So I'd do that, and sometimes I'd fill in ring announce. And then when everybody started getting music, I would use the same recorder to plug into the PA system, and I was in charge of playing the music. So I would be up there ready. I'd play the fucking music. I'd shut the thing off. I'd run down. I'd take pictures at ringside, and then I'd go and repeat the processes. Where was I going with that? Oh, so we would go to the Rock-A-Bar in Evansville. The original location, I understand, is no longer there. What it looked like in 1979, I wouldn't have bet it had been there in 87. But it lasted till just a few years ago, apparently. The neighborhood might not have been, equally as tasty as the pizza by the time they closed. But we would go there because they were the only thing really open in Evansville, Indiana, that wasn't out of the way of Teeny and whoever her driver was going to Nashville and us coming back to Louisville, or potentially they were coming back with us because we were going to Lexington. But we would stop at the Rock-A-Bar, and they knew we were coming. So the nice old Italian couple would keep it open a couple extra minutes because they knew we were going to eat like we were going to the Chair. And occasionally some of the boys would go over also just to get something if they were headed back to Louisville or whatever. And then I got smart to the fact that not only was the pizza fucking incredible, and the guy ground his own sausage and made the little balls and he cut it in the square pieces, but somehow they artistically arranged it so there was a sausage ball on every fucking square. And boom, and they made the dough by hand, and I don't know, he may have put his own piss into the goddamn mix to make it special. I don't know what the fuck they did. But I'm sure this guy in 1979 was probably 70 years old. So I'm not saying it's the same these days. But whatever he did was a great pizza, and he would pre-cook these pizzas for you if you wanted to take them home, and you could put them in the oven and heat them up a little bit all the way, or you could freeze them and then pop them in the oven for like 15 minutes or whatever, and boom goes the dynamite. And I started getting about 3 of those bad boys to bring home. He'd wrap them in aluminum foil, and I'd put them in the freezer. That way for the next week, if I was out after a show and we got back late, whatever, I would pop the Rock-A-Bar pizza in the oven. So that's why I did put on about 10 or 12 pounds in a couple of years before I started managing, was from eating Rock-A-Bar pizza 4 nights a week. Did that answer your question?
And so much more.
And so much more. I'm sorry. I don't mean to digress about these things.